Today on the Hangout, the Raps have been giving big minutes to the big man in the middle. Will that trend continue? Also, the Warriors copying the Spurs playbook, sitting players. Is this good for the league? And it's Cinderella time. Who you got in your bracket? Breaking it down on Hangout. Basketball fans, welcome into Canada's home for Talking Hoops. This is the Hangout coming to you from the belly of the beast that is the Air Canada Centre. And we have a very, very, very special episode for you today. This is our coaches special. So we had to get three of our favorite coaches from all the levels that touch the courts here in Toronto. So we start at the end of the couch with a men you're all very familiar with from all levels of basketball: high school All-American, a college standout, NBA All-Star, now the head coach for our very own 905, Jerry Stackhouse. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. First question, though, are you surprised at how good you've been as a coach so far? You've had a great season, sir.
No, it's been a lot of fun, man. Got a great group of guys, man. Just bought into what we're trying to do, and it's been a lot of fun, man. Hopefully it can continue.
Yeah, I've had a front row seat to a lot of your games. You guys play a great brand of basketball. The man that gave me my very first job in basketball is video coordinator for Eastern Commerce, Rana, the OUA champion, finishing second overall this past weekend in Nova Scotia for the U Sport Finals. Sir, congratulations on the big win. And what do you have next in store? You're always moving, working on something.
Thanks, Akil. Great season again. Likewise, I mean, phenomenal group of guys who just gave everything they had this season, and had arguably our greatest season in school history. So feel really good about that. And short break, and then off to Portland to take on the world team at the Hoop Summit again, and then the Jordan Brand Classic, and on to the junior national team. So it really doesn't stop, but going to savor this one for a little bit and get ready for the next one.
All right, relish it, and we expect you to be back there next year repping again. And representing the high school level, my man Gus Gymnopolous, Vaughan Prep. Now, talk about the transition you've made. You've gone from just being a regular high school program to now being part of this expanding prep program. What's that been like?
I mean, now we got to deal with the big boys now, and we got to shift the way that we've always done things, and kind of look forward. And then, you got to kind of dabble in looking at different players and what fits your program. And it's a new shift from what we've done for the past 15 years, because the game has moved forward in that direction. So we got to keep up.
Yes, you do. Now, speaking of the big boys, it's time for us to shift focus, talk about the big club here in Toronto. That is the Toronto Raptors. Final playoff push, about 14 or 13 games remaining for this club. But one thing we've seen that we haven't seen a lot of this year in the recent stretch has been JV playing in the fourth quarter, key minutes, getting touches. I'll start with you, Coach Rana. Is this going to continue? Has Coach kind of earned, or has JV earned the trust of Coach Casey on both the defensive and offensive end?
I would say he probably never really lost the trust. I think, what we're seeing is just, a roster now beginning to kind of form as they start to enter into the playoffs. I mean, you look at what he was able to do last year in the playoffs, doesn't get injured. I mean, he's playing, key critical moments in big games, and we're starting to see him execute down the stretch here. I think that it bodes well for the Raptors moving forward.
Gus, I was talking to you earlier. You, of course, with your team, don't have a plethora of bigs to throw out there. So do you understand, the value, for you when you watch JV and you see, you have a big man, you can throw the ball to in the post, even though that's not the way the game is really being played right now, you get the value of him, right?
Yeah, his length, his ability to be physical and, contain other bigs. I understand why sometimes in the new modern area of the NBA that he's off the court in the fourth quarter, being able to switch out and all that stuff, and I get it, but if you have him, you got to use him, and you got to dump it down to him, and front rim pick and roll stuff, and I wish I had a 7-foot guy like that on my roster. That's for sure.
Now, insider information, of course, you've been very involved with the Toronto Raptors club, and I look at the way you coach, and you've got some big guys like Moreira and Tavares that you utilize, but understanding the roles on the teams, on the players with the big club, what was your take on the whole JV situation and why he wasn't playing so much earlier?
Well, I don't think like I said, we just had a big trade. We had a guy that needs to get minutes to try to get caught up to, the speed of things. I mean, I think if it's sacrificing a few minutes from JV right now to get, Ibaka some more touches, some more time on the court just to kind of get a feel of what. I think that's more of the problem than JV. JV is going to be a guy that we rely on. Of course, in certain situations where the teams will go smaller, it's just not the best matchup for JV. And sometimes it might have been a rash of games where that was the case. And, coaches adjust accordingly, and Coach Case is going to do that, But I think for the most part, JV is, when he's responded that big game he had against New Orleans, against Big Cuz, and those boys show that he can play with the big boys, but sometimes the game just dictates where we're going a different direction.
All right, now speaking of coaches making adjustments, Thursday night, the next Raptors game, Russell Westbrook, the human triple-double coming to town. Coach Stackhouse, I'll stick with you on this one. As a coach, Casey's got his hands full when you talk about a guy that really creates. He's averaging, I think he creates like 55 points off of scoring and assists per game. What's the game plan there to try to rein him in?
Well, that's exactly it, to try to rein him in. I mean, it's not only Coach Casey's problem, it's every coach in the league to try to game plan for this guy, man. In my opinion, he's the MVP this year, a guy that's putting up Wilt Chamberlain and Oscar Robertson-type triple-double numbers. You can't take anything away from James Harden, though, but I think he's the MVP in my mind. I think you just have to load to him. Got to load to him, make him see a bunch of bodies. I saw, watching a little bit of the Brooklyn game last night with them, and Whiteside stepped up and took a charge in transition. So I think that's what it is. You got to load this guy, make him see a ton of bodies.
I know you guys probably have never coached against a player of that caliber. From the two of you, if you were to throw your hat in the ring, what would be the first thing you try to take away from a guy like Russell Westbrook?
I think space. I think Coach Stackhouse says it well. Force him to play in the crowd. He is turnover prone at times, and you got to try to limit what he can do. And I think the more you force him to play in the crowd, the more advantage you have. I mean, you're not going to stop him. You got to try to limit him.
Now, you're a Jordan brand team, so you probably don't want to stop Russell Westbrook. You're Nike, but you're rocking the Jordans. You're affiliated. But, I mean, Russell Westbrook is a problem. Is there anything you think that maybe someone hasn't thought of yet, or a trick?
I mean, you might even want to go opposite what the guys just said. I think that's probably the way to go. But if you want to do something, you might want to just say, okay, he's going to get his. Let's shut everyone else down, and maybe in the second half, let's change the look and maybe, crowd the paint and stuff and load to him and give him different looks throughout the game might be another way to do it.
All right, well, we'll find out Thursday night when the Oklahoma City Thunder make their way to the Air Canada Center to take on the Toronto Raptors. Still more to come here on Canada's Home for Talking Hoops. When we return, we got to talk about something that bothers me on a nightly basis, and that's when teams decide to sit players. We know the Spurs have been doing it for years, but now the Warriors are doing it. This can't be good for the game. People are paying top dollar for these tickets. I'm going to defend the fans when we return on Hangout.